Hey guys, my name's Tyler Watson, and you're watching the Direction Motivation Podcast. And I'm just thankful that you're here today. And I'm excited to share with you a little bit of my story. People have asked me about the book Hurt But Not Broken and how I got to where I am, from speaking on platforms in front of 30,000 people to writing 2 new books. How did I do it? Glad you asked. Let's go. Now, look, before we start, I just want to say this is not a podcast where I boast about my life. I'm not a prideful person. I can say that because I know I'm not a good man. I know I'm not a bad man. I'm somewhere in between. And I've hurt a lot of people over the years. And if I've never sought forgiveness from you, I do it now. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And just so you know, if there's anyone out there watching this that feels like our relationship might be awkward because of something you've done, I've forgiven you. I've already forgiven you. Even if I don't know about it, I forgive you. Let's have a connection in a relationship. Because I understand something. I am perfectly imperfect. I am accepted and loved by God, not based on anything that I didn't do or anything that I could do. But for a long time, this was a hard revelation for me to understand, because I grew up in a church that was very legalistic. I grew up in a home that was very legalistic. It was this idea that Christ didn't just love me for me, but he loved me as long as I did X, Y, and Z. The idea of Jesus plus something else theology. And that was hard, because that kind of pours over into your personal life and the psychological makeup of who you are, and the idea that no one's going to love you unconditionally just because you are who you are. And so it was tough. And in writing the book Hurt But Not Broken, I never imagined that I would be an author. I never imagined that I would write a book that would sell 2,500 copies in the first week to a state prison in Utah. Thankfully, a pastor named Craig Flack, who I was under for 3 years plus, he pushed me into it. And it's men like him that have kind of made me who I am today. So when really breaking down my story, it's a story of grace and mercy and true triumph. And in sharing that with you today, I hope you can understand that your past doesn't have to determine your future either. That God does have a plan for you regardless of your current circumstances or where you find yourself. I was a kid that I grew up without my mom and dad. My dad left me at birth. My mom was only 16, and I don't know about you, but if I was 16, I wouldn't want to stay around. I'd have a life to live, right? And so I don't blame her, and I love my mom, but that's kind of how it was. And my great grandmother was there, and she was available, so she took me in. And I was raised in a trailer park, and in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, per capita, it's worse than Detroit, Michigan. Its homicide rate is horrific. And I remember stories growing up. There was a guy and his wife and his newborn. They just moved to Pine Bluff, and he needed milk. And so he went down to the 7-Eleven, and at the 4-way stop, someone knocked on his window and shot and killed him. These are the stories of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And I'd highly recommend, if you're ever in that area, don't stop. Keep going. But the truth is that most of my life growing up, it was dysfunctional. It just really was. My great-grandmother was an incredible woman. She loved me, but she had some really bad habits. One of those bad habits was hoarding. She would go to yard sales and take me, and if you read the book, you can really just see all of my story. But in the book, I talk about how she would take me to yard sales, and she would always tell me not to touch anything because we knew we weren't buying anything. We were poor. And we'd walk around the table, and she would act like she was interested, and she'd go up to the counter and where they had the money jar, and she would say, "I'm sorry, there's nothing that I need here today, but if you find out that you don't want to keep everything that doesn't sell, just give me a call." And they always did. And so in our house, I was literally walking over things to get to my bedroom. And the worst part was we didn't have AC. So there was no air conditioner in the summers in Arkansas. And so the windows were open with box fans. And I remember one day I was sitting in the recliner and a cat jumped through the window into the box fan, literally hit me in the head. It was awful. I mean, you laugh now, but it was awful. And that was kind of my life. And as I got older, I started to realize that I smelled bad. And I mean, at first grade and second grade, I would get sent to the counselor's office to get deodorant, and they thought it was something they could fix, but it wasn't. So as I got older, I would put my clothes in the washer and dryer, and directly from the dryer, put them in bed sheets and take them and hang them up in my closet and spray bod spray on them. And I hoped that would fix it. I'd take a towel and put it under the door, and I would take a pie pan with soapy water and put a candle in the middle of it, and that would attract fleas to jump to the light, which they would die in the soapy water. That'd keep them off of me enough to be able to sleep peacefully at night. And I'd get up that next morning and put my clothes on, and thinking that I smelled okay, I'd get on the bus, but realize different quickly. Most of my life growing up, I just felt like I was kind of sticking out like a sore thumb. A great grandmother that came to my Christmas parties when everybody else had their moms and dads there. And, it was just a different reality for me. And then this idea of going to a church that everyone wore suits and ties, but I wore whatever my great grandmother could find that was cheap. So I never looked the part. And then when at 11 years old, my pastor bought me my first suit. And I was so stoked about it because I finally felt like I fit in. And I wore that suit that night. And as I entered through the double doors of the church, an elderly man stopped me and said, "Wow, they finally taught trailer trash how to dress." And although I knew internally that I was from the trailer park, and although I knew internally that I was poor, it literally ripped my soul into pieces because I felt like he was just reminding me of who I've always been and who the enemy's telling me I'm always going to be. I went home that night and I just cried and I yelled at God because I didn't understand if God was so merciful and God was so loving and he cared about me the way that he said he did, why he would allow someone like that and something like that to happen to me. Why would he allow me to be raised in a poor home? Why would he allow me to go through what I went through mentally and psychologically? We're not even getting into the sexual abuse and things that happened to me as a kid, but why would he allow it? It was at age 13 that I decided I was going to join my first gang. And at age 15, I was arrested and sent to juvie. And for 2.5 years, I went homeless. 8 different homes with 6 different families. It was one of the hardest times of my life. So what do you do when you feel like you're forgotten? When you feel like you don't have any opportunity? When you feel like maybe God's forgotten about you? I don't want to spoil it. You can pick it up, you can buy it, you can order it, it's cheap. We lowered it as low as it could go on Amazon for $5. But ultimately, I hope that you could understand today that my life, literally 15 years ago, was a complete dumpster fire. I saw no way that I would ever become anything. I'd believe the enemy's lies because of the things that were told to me growing up. And even at 31, there's a lot of things that I've had to persevere through, counseling and trying to do things more intentionally. There's a void that's been left into me because not having a father, I lacked those affirmations. I wanted people to like me, and because I was raised in a legalistic church, I always thought that I had to do more, that no one would appreciate me or want to be around me if it was unconditional. And those are all lies. So I want you to understand this platform that we've built here at Direction Motivation is bigger than just trying to be famous or trying to create followers. I honestly don't care about those things. The reason we've started the inner circle, the reason why we do seminars, the reason why we do conferences, and the reason why we're trying to help youth ministries is because I know there's another young person just like me out there. I know there's a young adult that's in their early 20s that's trying to figure it out because they have a lifetime of trauma and nothing is helping. I'm trying to help youth ministries because we are living in an age where young people are checking out left and right. And we have to make sure that we give them the best opportunity and experience. Youth ministry is not about how you think it should be designed. Youth ministry is how you connect with young people to give them the best experience, to create incredible relationships that lead them to discipleship. But you have to earn that. And so I hope you understand with my story and our team here at Direction Motivation that our goal is to help change this younger generation, to give real resources to real problems. Because no one else needs another guru. No one else needs some coach that just gets in it halfway to try to help people realize what they already know. Our hope is to really make an impact. The Bible says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. Testimony is just another word for stories. And it's our stories that we share. And it's our experiences that we can really learn from and help others with, that allow us to step into our destiny and helping others see who they really are, not not what the world's trying to define them as. Thanks for taking your time, guys, to check out Direction Motivation and listen to my story today. I hope that maybe you would be, influenced to buy the book. I don't make $1 from it. My hope is that you would buy it. And even if it's not for yourself, you would give it to a young person, because I think they'll really find Christ and see him in a new way. It's powerful. It's impactful. I hope that we can be a blessing to you guys in some way or some capacity. With that being said, you might be hurt, but you're never broken. You guys have been listening to the Direction Motivation Podcast. My name is Tyler Watson. See you next week.